There's something frustratingly common that happens to drivers everywhere. You go into a mechanic shop for something simple, an oil change or a quick checkup, and you walk out with a bill that's double or even triple what you expected. Worse, you're left wondering if any of those repairs were actually needed. Mechanics, like professionals in any field, range from honest and helpful to dishonest and opportunistic. The challenge is most people don't know enough about cars to tell the difference. But if you know what to watch for, you can spot the warning signs early and avoid being taken advantage of. High pressure repairs and urgency tactics. One of the clearest signs a mechanic might be ripping you off is when they try to push you into making a repair on the spot. They might say something like, "This is really unsafe. I wouldn't drive this car another mile," or "You need to fix this today," or "It could cause serious damage." These tactics are meant to scare you into agreeing without giving you time to consider your options or check for a second opinion. While it's true that some car problems can be urgent, the majority of them do not require instant action. For example, brake pads may be wearing down, but unless they are completely gone or leaking fluid, you usually have time to compare estimates or ask questions. Mechanics who pressure you with fear-based language or give you very short deadlines are often hoping to catch you off guard. A reputable mechanic will explain the issue, tell you how urgent it really is, and allow you time to think it over. Unexpected upsells and add-on services. Another red flag is when you take your car in for one simple service like an oil change, and suddenly the mechanic recommends several additional services like fuel injection cleaning, a transmission flush, or replacing spark plugs and filters. The issue isn't that these services are never needed, but that they are often offered far more frequently than necessary. For instance, many modern vehicles don't require things like transmission flushes until they've reached a much higher mileage, and regular oil changes are usually enough to keep the engine clean without additional chemical treatments. Some of these upsells can be based on the vehicle's condition or age, but if your mechanic brings up multiple extras every single visit, especially without explaining why they're needed, it's likely an attempt to increase the bill unnecessarily. Honest mechanics might suggest additional maintenance, but they'll clearly explain which ones are urgent, which are preventative, and which can wait. Refusal to show the problem or explain it clearly. A trustworthy mechanic should always be willing to show you what's wrong with your car, whether it's worn brake pads, a leaky gasket, or a cracked belt. A good shop will physically point out the issue or provide photos or video from their inspection. If a mechanic is vague, won't let you see the damage, or dodges your questions, that's a major red flag. Some car parts are deep inside the engine and harder to access, but most problems can still be explained with little effort. A mechanic who refuses to provide visual evidence or walks away from your questions may be covering something up. Clear explanations and transparency are signs that a shop values honesty. If you feel like you're being left in the dark or spoken to in a way that avoids real details, it's time to consider going somewhere else. Vague pricing and lack of itemized quotes. Another common tactic used by dishonest mechanics is to give a quote that's intentionally vague. They might say something like, "It'll probably cost around $600 but they won't tell you exactly what's included in that price. Without an itemized breakdown, you have no idea whether that number includes labor, parts, shop fees, or hidden markups. A professional mechanic should always be able to give you a detailed estimate. This should list how much you're paying for each part, how much the labor will cost, and any taxes or shop fees involved. When you receive a quote that simply says brake repair $750, 0 cents, without a breakdown, you have no way of knowing whether you're being charged fairly. The lack of transparency can hide overcharging on both parts and labor. Watch out also for unclear shop supplies or environmental fees. While some shops do have small fees for disposal of oil or shop rags, these charges should be minimal and clearly stated. If they can't explain what these fees are for, or they're unusually high, it's another sign they may be padding the bill. Charging full labor twice for overlapping repairs. This scam usually shows up when two repairs are done that are located in the same area of the car. For example, if you need a timing belt replacement and the mechanic suggests replacing the water pump while they're in there, that's actually a smart idea. Both parts are close together and removing one gives easy access to the other. But if they then charge you full labor for each job separately, they're overcharging you. When repairs overlap, labor should be combined or discounted. A mechanic already doing the work to reach a certain area of your engine shouldn't charge twice for the same process. If your bill shows full labor rates for every job, especially when it involves work in the same area, ask them why the labor wasn't bundled. A shop acting in good faith will usually adjust the price or explain the overlap, replacing parts that don't need replacing. This is one of the most blatant forms of fraud when a mechanic replaces a part that wasn't damaged or worn at all. Some common examples include air filters, belts, sensors, and even batteries. The average driver might not notice a new bell when the old one was perfectly fine, and dishonest mechanics count on that. One of the easiest ways to protect yourself from this scam is to ask for your old parts back. It's a simple request that puts pressure on dishonest mechanics because they know they can't give you back a part that was never replaced. This isn't confrontational. It's actually a normal industry practice. In fact, some states require mechanics to return replaced parts upon request. If a mechanic refuses, says the parts were thrown away immediately, or gives you a vague excuse, that's a strong indicator something suspicious happened. Excessive charges for simple diagnostic work. Many shops charge a fee for diagnostics, especially when figuring out a tricky problem takes time and specialized tools. That's fair. However, some shops charge outrageous fees for something as simple as scanning your check engine light. Basic code scanning takes just a few minutes and can be done with a handheld device that's widely available. If a mechanic charges over $100, 0 cents, just for plugging in a scanner and reading a code, it's excessive. You can avoid this by getting your own basic OBD2 scanner, a small device that costs under $30, 0 cents, online. These scanners don't give you deep diagnostic insight, but they tell you the trouble code and give you a basic idea of the problem. With this information in hand, you'll be in a much better position when talking to a mechanic. New problems every time you visit. If you notice that every time you bring your car in, there's suddenly a new problem, be cautious. While it's normal for older vehicles to need more frequent maintenance, it's not normal for issues to appear like clockwork after every visit. This may suggest that the shop is inventing problems or deliberately causing minor damage during inspections to justify repairs. Pay close attention to patterns. If you're constantly told about serious issues that didn't exist before, or repairs you thought were handled or suddenly needed again, get a second opinion. A good shop won't invent problems just to stay busy. They only recommend what your car actually needs. Using technical jargon to confuse you. Some mechanics intentionally use technical language to confuse customers or make repairs seem more complicated than they actually are. When you hear terms like catalytic converter failure due to O2 sensor lag or premature camshaft wear from sludge buildup, it's easy to feel overwhelmed and assume the repair must be serious. In some cases, mechanics rely on this intimidation effect to get you to say yes to expensive work you might not actually need. A trustworthy mechanic should be able to break things down in simple, everyday terms. If they explain a repair and you still feel unsure what they mean, don't hesitate to ask for clarification. If they respond with more jargon or act annoyed, it could be a sign they don't want you to fully understand. Mechanics who are honest will never talk down to you or try to confuse you. They'll help you understand your options, refusing to let you take the car somewhere else. If a mechanic refuses to let you take your car to another shop for a second opinion or tries to prevent you from leaving with your vehicle, that's a massive red flag. This can take different forms. Some shops might say, we've already started working on it, so you'll still have to pay for the labor even if you never authorized anything. Others might strongly discourage you from leaving, insisting the car is unsafe to drive without showing you proof. In most places, it is illegal for a shop to start work without your approval, and you always have the right to ask for a second opinion. Reputable mechanics understand that customers sometimes want to compare prices or get confirmation. If a shop uses guilt, fear, or intimidation to stop you from going somewhere else, you should leave immediately, and if necessary, contact your local consumer protection agency. The mysterious check engine light reset. There's a sneaky trick some mechanics pull involving the check engine light. After they inspect your car, they might reset the code that caused the light to come on rather than actually fixing the issue. On the surface, it looks like they've solved the problem because the light disappears, but in reality, it's just been temporarily turned off. A few days later, the light returns and you're back where you started. This isn't always done out of malice. Sometimes a mechanic wants to see if a code will reappear before replacing parts. But if you paid for a repair and the same warning returns shortly after, it's worth questioning what work was actually done. Ask to see the exact diagnostic code they pulled and ask what specific steps were taken to fix the underlying issue, not just clear the light. Overcharging for cheaper aftermarket parts. Parts pricing is another area where dishonest shops can easily take advantage of customers. Some mechanics will install cheap, low-quality aftermarket parts, but charge you as if they used original equipment manufacturer OEM parts, the ones that come directly from your vehicle's brand. Others mark up even basic components like filters or spark plugs by 200% or more. You're not expected to know the price of every part, but with smartphones, it's never been easier to do a quick search while you're at the counter. If the part they're using is available for $50, 0 cents, and they're charging you $180, 0 cents for it, that's a problem, especially if they didn't tell you it was aftermarket. Honest mechanics will always be clear about the difference between OEM and aftermarket parts and let you choose. While OEM parts can be more expensive, they often last longer and perform better. The key is knowing what you're paying for. Finding a mechanic you can trust. Not all mechanics are dishonest. In fact, the majority of professionals take pride in their work and value long-term relationships with customers. The challenge is separating the good from the bad. Start by reading reviews carefully, not just the star rating, but the actual content. Look for reviews where customers say the mechanic explained everything clearly, didn't pressure them into services, and kept costs transparent. Certifications like ASE, Automotive Service Excellence, are also a good sign of professionalism, though not the only one. It also helps to find a shop that specializes in your vehicle's make. A shop that works primarily on Japanese cars, for example, will likely have better knowledge of your Toyota or Honda than a general repair shop. They'll also be more familiar with factory service intervals and common problems, which can save you time and money in the long run. One of the best ways to protect yourself from being ripped off is to keep a simple record of all your maintenance. You don't need anything fancy. Even a small notebook or a digital note will do. Write down the date, mileage, what service was done, and by whom. This helps you avoid duplicate services and question anything that doesn't line up with your records. If a mechanic tells you that a certain fluid needs to be changed or a part is worn out, but you know it was just replaced 5,000 miles ago, you'll be able to challenge it confidently. Keeping track empowers you to make informed decisions. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more real-world tips that actually save you money, and drop a comment below if you've ever had a sketchy experience at a mechanic. I'd love to hear your story. And hey, the next time your check engine light comes on, at least now you'll know what to look out for. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.